You've been living your entire life inside a book you were never taught how to read. Every morning it opens again, not with pages or ink but with moments, a silence that lingers after prayer, a plan that doesn't unfold the way you hoped, a chance encounter that stays with you longer than it should. You move through these moments quickly, assuming they are ordinary, assuming they are random. And yet, somewhere inside you, a quiet question keeps returning. Why this? Why now? Ibn Arabi taught that this question is not a weakness of faith. It is the beginning of sight. Most people think meaning belongs only to sacred texts, locked inside books placed on shelves. Life, they believe, is something else entirely, chaotic, accidental, driven by coincidence and circumstance. Events happen, emotions follow, and then everything moves on. But Ibn Arabi saw something radically different. He said the universe itself is a book written by Allah, continuously revealed, never closed. And you are already reading it, whether you realize it or not. Consider how some moments pass without weight, while others press against your heart. A small delay feels heavy. A brief conversation echoes for days. A closed door unsettles you more than a clear loss ever could. If life were random, why would meaning arrange itself so precisely around your inner state? Why do certain experiences repeat, while others vanish without a trace? We often dismiss these moments quickly. We say, that's just life. We say, everyone goes through this. We distract ourselves, scroll past the discomfort, keep moving. But Ibn Arabi warned that this habit, this rushing past meaning, is a kind of blindness. Not blindness of the eyes, but blindness of perception. You see events, but you don't read them. Think of a person standing in front of a page written in a language they never learned. The letters are there, the structure is there, the meaning exists, but to them it is only shapes and sounds. Life can feel the same way, full of signs yet strangely silent. Ibn Arabi did not believe Allah communicates only through revelation sent long ago. He believed divine speech is ongoing. Every created thing, he said, is a word. Every moment, a sentence. Every phase of your life, a chapter unfolding in real time. The question is not whether the book is open. It always is. The question is whether you have learned how to read. Look at your own life. Think of a challenge that keeps returning in different forms. Different people, same tension. Different circumstances, same inner struggle. Is it really coincidence? Or is it a lesson written again because the earlier version went unread? Even ease carries meaning. Moments of unexpected calm. Help arriving quietly without announcement. Doors opening without force. These too are words, but most people only look for meaning in pain. Ibn Arabi taught that both hardship and ease are forms of address. Different verses, same author. This way of seeing does not turn life into superstition. It does the opposite. It grounds you. It removes panic. When events are read as messages rather than threats, you stop reacting blindly. You begin to listen. And listening changes everything. You no longer ask, why is this happening to me? You begin to ask, what is being shown to me? This shift is subtle, but it is decisive. Because once you accept that life is speaking, silence becomes impossible. The world around you, people, delays, patterns, even interruptions, starts to feel arranged rather than chaotic. Not always comfortable, not always easy, but purposeful. Ibn Arabi believed that ignorance is not the absence of knowledge, but the failure to recognize meaning when it stands directly in front of you. Most people, he said, walk through the pages of their own lives without ever realizing they are being addressed. So before learning how to read the universe, something simpler must be acknowledged. You are already inside the book. The only question that remains is this. If life has been speaking to you all along, what have you been missing? Once you begin to suspect that life is not random, a deeper question naturally follows. Where does meaning come from? If the universe is a book, who taught us how to read it? Ibn Arabi approached this question in a way that was both simple and unsettling. He said Allah has written more than one book. Most people, he observed, spend their lives studying only one. while remaining unaware of the others. The first is the most familiar, the written book, the Quran, preserved in letters, ink, and recitation. It is read with the eyes and the tongue, memorized, studied, and revered. For many believers, this is where learning begins and ends. But Ibn Arabi insisted that stopping here leaves understanding incomplete. The second book, he said, is written far closer to you. It is the inscribed book, the human soul itself. Your tendencies, your longings, your fears, your capacity for patience and surrender. This book is not read aloud. It is revealed through self-awareness, through reflection, through moments when life presses you inward and forces you to confront who you are becoming. Few people learn to read this book honestly because it requires humility. It demands that you admit where you resist, where you cling, where you misunderstand. But there is a third book, one almost entirely ignored. Ibn Arabi called it the manifest book, the universe itself, the world spread out as creation, not as scenery, not as background noise, but as a living text unfolding with precision. Every event, every encounter, every shift in circumstance belongs to this book. And unlike the written Quran, this book does not sit quietly on a shelf. It moves, it interrupts, it insists on your attention. Most people never think of the universe this way. They see it as neutral space where things simply happen. Science explains processes. Psychology explains behavior. Society explains patterns. And while all of these explanations have their place, Ibn Arabi warned that stopping there flattens reality. It turns meaning into mechanics. He believed these three books are not separate. They interpret one another. The Quran explains the universe. The universe manifests the Quran. And the human soul stands between them, capable of reading both or misunderstanding both. This is why someone can recite sacred verses flawlessly, yet feel lost when life becomes difficult. The words are known, but the language of events remains unfamiliar. When hardship arrives, they search only for answers in text, while ignoring the verse unfolding in their own experience. Ibn Arabi said something striking. If you cannot read the signs in creation, you will struggle to understand revelation itself. Not because the Quran is unclear, but because it speaks in the same symbolic language as the universe. Both are written by the same author. Both require reflection, patience, and depth of sight. Think of how often people ask, "Why is Allah testing me like this?" without first asking what the test is revealing. Or how often ease is dismissed as luck, while difficulty is treated as punishment. These reactions come from reading one book while ignoring the others. The manifest book, the universe, is not meant to replace scripture. It is meant to illuminate it. When you see patience in nature, mercy in timing, wisdom in restraint, verses you once read abstractly begin to feel alive. They stop being distant ideals and start describing reality as you experience it. Ibn Arabi did not ask people to abandon knowledge or reason. He asked them to expand literacy, to learn the language Allah uses when He speaks through circumstances rather than words. And this changes the role of the believer. You are no longer someone waiting passively for meaning to descend. You become a reader, actively engaged. Life is no longer something happening to you. It is something being shown to you. But this raises an important question, perhaps the most important one yet. If the universe is a book, and if it is written with precision, then what is it written in? What is its alphabet? Every book, no matter how vast, begins with something small. Letters, shapes that seem meaningless on their own, yet carry the power to create entire worlds once they are arranged with intention. Ibn Arabi believed the universe works the same way. He asked his students to reflect on a simple truth. The Quran, in all its depth and majesty, is composed of only a limited number of letters. 28 Arabic letters, arranged again and again in different patterns, generate every verse, every command, every story, every mystery. Meaning does not come from the letters themselves, but from how they are brought together. Then he expanded the question. What if existence itself has an alphabet? According to Ibn Arabi, before physical creation appeared, Allah brought archetypal realities into being, patterns of meaning held within divine knowledge. These were not physical forms yet. They were possibilities, templates, principles, one for patience, one for growth, one for loss, one for mercy, one for restraint. These realities, he taught, are the true letters of the universe. When creation unfolds, these letters take form. A tree is not just wood and leaves. It is the manifestation of a deeper reality, steadfastness, growth through seasons, quiet service. Water is not only liquid, it is adaptability without losing essence. Light is not merely illumination, it is clarity, guidance, and exposure. The physical form passes, the meaning behind it endures. This is why Ibn Arabi said that every created thing is a word spoken by Allah. When you encounter it, you are not meant to stop at the surface. You are meant to ask, what quality is being expressed here? Most people never ask this question. They interact with forms, not meanings. They see objects, events, and people as isolated facts. But to Ibn Arabi, this was like staring at letters without ever forming a word, sound without sense. Consider how this applies to daily life. You lose something important. At the surface level, it is inconvenience or frustration. But beneath that event is a quality being revealed, detachment, impermanence, or perhaps redirection. The loss is not the message. The meaning behind the loss is. You experience an unexpected delay. On the surface, it feels like obstruction, but delay may carry restraint, protection, or preparation. Something is being withheld not out of neglect but out of wisdom. The form says no. The meaning says not yet. Even repetition follows this alphabet. When the same type of situation appears again and again, it is rarely coincidence. It is often the same letter reappearing, trying to form a word you have not yet read. Ibn Arabi warned that focusing only on forms leads to exhaustion. Life becomes heavy because nothing seems to make sense. But when meaning is recognized, weight shifts. You may not enjoy every lesson, but you no longer feel lost inside it. This does not mean assigning mystical explanations to everything. Ibn Arabi was careful about this. He did not teach superstition. He taught discernment. The difference is subtle but essential. Superstition invents meaning. Discernment uncovers it. To read the alphabet of existence, you do not ask, what will happen next? You ask, what quality is appearing now? This shift brings humility. You stop demanding answers and begin observing patterns. You become less reactive, more receptive. Life slows down, not because events change, but because your relationship to them does. Once you understand that existence has an alphabet, a new responsibility emerges. Letters are rarely isolated. They combine, they form words, they create sentences. So the next step is not just recognizing individual meanings, but learning how they connect. If one event is a letter and several events appear together, what are they trying to say? To answer that, Ibn Arabi taught that you must learn to read patterns, not moments. And that is where the real work begins. Most people move through life one moment at a time. Something happens, an emotion rises, a reaction follows, and then the moment passes. There is no pause, no reflection. Life becomes a sequence of disconnected experiences, some pleasant, some painful, all quickly replaced by the next. Ibn Arabi taught that this way of living keeps a person permanently on the surface of reality. He insisted that events are not isolated occurrences. They are connected, arranged, and meaningful when read together. To experience an event is easy. To read it requires patience. An event on its own is like a single letter. It may look insignificant, but when similar events repeat, when patterns emerge across time, letters begin to form words, and words carry intention. Think of how often people say, "This keeps happening to me." The same type of conflict in different relationships, the same obstacle appearing in different careers, the same emotional reaction triggered by different circumstances. At first, it feels like misfortune. But Ibn Arabi would ask a different question. What lesson is insisting on being read? When something appears once, it may be coincidence. When it appears repeatedly, it is often instruction. Take loss as an example. A person loses money, then later loses status, then perhaps loses a sense of certainty. Each event feels separate, but read together they may form a single word: detachment. The events are not punishing. They are teaching the heart how to loosen its grip. Or consider delay. A door closes, another opportunity slows down, progress feels suspended. Read individually, each moment feels frustrating. Read together, they may be forming a sentence about preparation, restraint, or redirection. The pause is not empty, it is shaping something unseen. Ibn Arabi emphasized that meaning is rarely loud. It does not announce itself, it waits to be noticed. This is why people who rush through life often miss its guidance. They react too quickly, label too soon, move on too fast. They read one letter and decide the meaning of the entire page. But reading reality requires context. Ibn Arabi compared this mistake to someone trying to understand a language by memorizing individual sounds. They recognize noise, but they never arrive at understanding. Without patience, even revelation becomes confusing. Reading events also requires humility. You must accept that you may not understand immediately. Some meanings reveal themselves only after time has passed, when you can see the pattern clearly. This is why certain experiences make sense only in hindsight. The sentence was incomplete until later events arrived. Importantly, Ibn Arabi did not teach people to obsess over signs. He taught them to observe calmly, awareness without anxiety, reflection without fear. Meaning emerges naturally when the heart is steady. This perspective also softens how you see hardship. When difficulty is read as instruction rather than attack, resentment loses its power. You may still feel pain, but you no longer feel targeted. Life is no longer against you. It is shaping you. Even ease must be read carefully. Sudden comfort, unexpected help, smooth paths, these too are words. They may be confirmations, encouragements, or reminders of support. Not every lesson comes wrapped in difficulty. The key is consistency. You cannot read one page and ignore the rest of the book. Ibn Arabi encouraged daily reflection, not dramatic interpretation. At the end of the day, he would ask himself, what did I witness today? What repeated itself? What shifted? What remained unresolved? Through this practice, events stop feeling chaotic. You begin to see continuity where you once saw disorder. And once events become readable, another realization follows naturally. If events carry meaning, and events involve people, then people themselves must be part of the text. And that changes everything about how you see those around you. There are people who pass through your life lightly, leaving little trace behind. And then there are others who stay, not always by choice, not always comfortably. Their presence lingers, challenges you, unsettles you, or quietly reshapes you in ways you don't immediately understand. Ibn Arabi believed this difference is not accidental. He taught that people are not interruptions in your story. They are part of the text itself. Living verses placed along your path, each carrying a particular meaning meant to be read, not judged, not dismissed, but understood. Most interactions remain at the surface. You notice behavior, words, personality. Someone is kind. Someone is difficult. Someone seems distant or demanding. This level of perception is natural, but it is incomplete. Ibn Arabi called it the outward reading, the visible form of the verse. But beneath this surface, he taught, there are deeper layers. The first deeper layer is what drives a person. Their fears, wounds, longings, and insecurities. Much of what irritates us in others is not malice, but unhealed pain expressing itself awkwardly. When you learn to read this layer, blame begins to soften. You may still need boundaries, but resentment loses its edge. Then there is another layer still, the reason this person has appeared in your life. Not in general, in yours. At this level, the question changes. You stop asking, "Why are they like this?" and begin asking, "What is their presence drawing out of me?" A demanding colleague may be teaching patience or self-respect. A dismissive friend may be revealing where you seek validation. A critical family member may be pressing you to clarify who you are beyond approval. The person is not the lesson. The response they evoke in you is. Ibn Arabi went even further. He taught that every person also reveals something about Allah, a divine quality made visible through human form. Mercy, restraint, wisdom, testing, forgiveness, all appear through people long before we recognize them in ourselves. This does not mean every relationship must be endured. Reading a verse does not require living inside it forever. Sometimes understanding brings clarity, not endurance. Distance can be part of the lesson. What matters is that no encounter is meaningless. Think of someone who irritates you deeply. At the surface, they are simply unpleasant, but look again. At a deeper level, they may be struggling in ways you cannot see. At another level, they may be sharpening a quality within you: patience, humility, restraint. At the deepest level, they may be manifesting a divine attribute that refines your character through friction rather than comfort. Suddenly, the relationship shifts, not emotionally overnight but perceptually. You no longer see an obstacle. You see a verse that requires careful reading. This way of seeing does not excuse harm. Ibn Arabi never taught passivity. Discernment includes protection. But even when distance is necessary, understanding remains valuable. You leave the encounter wiser rather than bitter. The most difficult realization comes next. If people around you are verses, if their presence reveals meaning, then you too are being read. Your words, your silences, your reactions, your consistency, all of these speak. You are not just reading the book of the universe, you are part of its language. Someone else may be learning patience through you. Someone else may be encountering mercy, firmness, or truth through your presence. This realization brings responsibility, but also dignity. Life is no longer a series of random meetings. It becomes a dialogue, a conversation written in human form. And once you begin reading people this way, something else changes naturally. You stop seeing the world as hostile or indifferent. You begin to see it as responsive. And that responsiveness is nowhere clearer than in the quiet lessons of nature itself. Before words, before explanations, before interpretations, there is nature. Quiet, patient, and unassuming. It does not argue, it does not persuade, it simply shows. Ibn Arabi spent years observing the natural world, not as scenery, but as instruction. He believed that nature speaks the same language as revelation, only without letters. Its lessons are not hidden because they are complex, but because they are subtle. Most people walk through nature without really seeing it. Trees become background. The sky becomes decoration. Seasons pass unnoticed except when they disrupt routine. But Ibn Arabi taught that nature is one of the clearest texts available to the human heart, because it does not lie, exaggerate, or pretend. Consider the cycle of day and night. Darkness does not argue with light, it makes space for it. Night withdraws and dawn arrives without force. There is no urgency, no resistance, just order. This rhythm teaches something quietly profound. Absence is not opposition. Delay is not denial. What retreats often returns in a different form. Look at the seasons. Nothing blooms forever. Nothing withers permanently. Growth gives way to harvest, harvest to rest, rest to renewal. The earth does not cling to any phase, it moves with wisdom. This rhythm corrects a common human mistake, the belief that a single moment defines everything. Nature reminds us that change is not failure, it is structure. Water carries one of the clearest lessons. It adapts without losing itself. It takes the shape of whatever holds it, yet its essence remains unchanged. Ibn Arabi often pointed to water as a model for the believer, flexible in form, constant in truth. When life reshapes you, you are not meant to harden. You are meant to flow without forgetting who you are. Mountains speak differently. They teach stability, stillness, humility. They rise high yet remain grounded. They endure storms without chasing them. Ibn Arabi once said he learned more from mountains than from books because mountains reveal permanence and surrender at the same time. They do not move to prove strength. They stand. Nature also teaches restraint. Seeds do not rush to grow. Fruit does not appear the moment effort is applied. Everything unfolds according to timing. This quiet discipline corrects impatience, the belief that effort must be immediately rewarded. Nature reminds us that unseen growth often precedes visible change. When you read nature this way, the world slows down. You stop demanding explanations and begin receiving insight. You realize that many of your struggles are not unique problems, but universal patterns playing out in personal form. Ibn Arabi believed that Allah teaches through repetition in nature so humans can learn without fear. The lesson is shown again and again, through sunrise and sunset, through tides and seasons, until the heart becomes receptive. This is why being in nature often brings calm without effort. You are not being entertained. You are being aligned. The noise inside you quiets because you are surrounded by order rather than urgency. But the deepest lesson nature offers is this: everything is in relationship. Nothing exists in isolation. Trees depend on soil. Rivers depend on terrain. Life depends on cycles larger than any individual will. And this truth points inward. If nature reflects divine wisdom so clearly, and if you are part of nature, then your own life must follow similar patterns. Growth, pause, loss, renewal. None of it random, none of it wasted. Which leads to the most personal realization of all. The universe is not just something you observe. It is something you participate in. And that means your own life is not only being lived, it is being written. At some point, if you follow this way of seeing honestly, the distance between you and the universe begins to dissolve. You stop observing life as something happening out there. You begin to recognize that you are inside the text, shaped by it, responding to it, and contributing to it at the same time. Ibn Arabi taught that every human life is a book written in real time, known fully to Allah, yet revealed to the person page by page. He called this the clear book of the individual, not something you can read all at once, but something that unfolds with each moment you live. Your purpose, your capacities, your struggles, your transformations, all written, yet not imposed. You encounter them gradually, through experience rather than explanation. This is why life never gives you the whole story up front. You are not meant to see the ending before the chapter has done its work. You are meant to read attentively, line by line, allowing meaning to shape you as it appears. When you look back on your life, you can often see this structure clearly. Certain phases begin and end with precision. Something in you dies, an identity, a belief, an attachment. Something else is born in its place. These moments feel painful while you are inside them, but later you recognize them as transitions, not punishments, periods, commas, open questions. Ibn Arabi believed repetition is one of the clearest signs that a chapter has not been completed. When the same lesson appears in different forms, relationships, work, health, inner restlessness, it is not bad luck, it is emphasis. The universe is underlining a sentence you have skimmed too quickly. This is where responsibility enters, quietly. Ibn Arabi taught that reading reality is not passive. Your interpretation matters. Two people can experience the same event and emerge from it differently, not because the event changed, but because the meaning they extracted did. One person reads loss as abandonment and contracts inward. Another reads it as redirection and becomes more attentive. The circumstances are identical. The futures are not. This is why Ibn Arabi emphasized letter 1E25 USN al letter 1E93NN, having a good assumption of Allah, not blind optimism, not denial of pain, but trust that whatever appears carries wisdom, even if it arrives wrapped in difficulty. When you read events through suspicion, you activate fear. When you read them through trust, you activate understanding. This does not mean everything will feel easy, but it does mean nothing is meaningless. The most profound shift happens when you realize something else. You are not only a reader of the universe, you are being read by it. Your responses shape what comes next. Awareness alters the path. Reflection refines the lesson. Ibn Arabi described the ideal state as the true reciter, a person who recognizes every face as a verse, every sound as speech, every moment as fresh revelation. Someone who understands that reading and being read happen simultaneously. At this level, separation fades. The universe is no longer something you struggle against or try to control. It becomes a conversation, responsive, intelligent, and alive. And then a quiet truth settles in. You are a word spoken by Allah, moving among other words, all written by the same author. The question is no longer whether meaning exists. The question is whether you are willing to live as someone who can read it. If there is one thing Ibn Arabi wanted us to understand, it is this: meaning is never absent, it is only overlooked. The universe is not silent. It has been speaking to you through moments, patterns, people, and pauses since the day you became aware of yourself. What changes a life is not discovering new information, but learning how to listen differently. So the next time something unsettles you, the next time a pattern repeats, the next time a moment lingers in your heart longer than it should, pause. Ask yourself, not why this is happening, but what is being shown. Have you ever noticed a small moment in your own life that later revealed a deeper meaning? If this reflection resonated with you, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Voice of Sufism, and turn on the bell icon so you don't miss future stories that explore the hidden wisdom of everyday life. I'd also love to hear from you. Share your experience in the comments below. Your reflection may help someone else recognize a sign they've been overlooking. And if you're ready to continue this journey, explore the related videos appearing on your screen now. Sometimes, all it takes is learning how to read what has been in front of you all along.